In the dim glow of his corner office on the 50th floor, Alexander Hart, the iron-fisted CEO of Hart Enterprises, stared at the flickering screen of his laptop, his fingers drumming impatiently against the polished mahogany desk as he prepared to dismantle yet another competitor in a hostile takeover that would add billions to his empire. The city lights sprawled out below like a conquered kingdom, indifferent to the lives he upended with every signature, every calculated decision that prioritized profit over people. But on this rain-slicked evening, as the storm raged outside, a soft knock echoed through the heavy door, pulling him from his reverie, a knock so tentative it seemed out of place in his world of boardroom battles and unyielding ambition. When he barked a curt, "Enter," the door creaked open to reveal a small girl, no more than 8 years old, drenched from the downpour, clutching a weathered leather-bound book to her chest like a lifeline, her wide eyes pleading as she whispered words that would shatter his carefully constructed armor forever. If you believe in the power of kindness and second chances, hit that like button, drop a comment below sharing your own story of unexpected compassion, share this video with someone who needs a reminder of humanity, and don't forget to subscribe to Moments of Love for more heart-touching tales that remind us we're all connected. Alexander's life had been a relentless ascent, forged in the fires of a childhood marked by abandonment and scarcity, where his father vanished into the shadows of addiction and his mother worked 3 jobs just to keep the lights on, teaching him early that vulnerability was a luxury he couldn't afford. By 30, he had clawed his way to the top of the corporate ladder, building Hart Enterprises into a behemoth that swallowed smaller companies whole, laying off thousands in the name of efficiency, his heart encased in layers of cynicism that no relationship or fleeting success could penetrate. Colleagues whispered of his ruthlessness, how he could fire loyal employees without a flicker of remorse, how his weekends were spent alone in his penthouse, reviewing spreadsheets rather than building memories, convinced that emotions were weaknesses exploited by the world. Yet, on this fateful night, as the little girl stepped into his office, her soaked sneakers leaving puddles on the marble floor, something in her innocent desperation cracked the facade he had so meticulously maintained. She had slipped past security somehow, perhaps mistaken for a client's child or overlooked in the chaos of the storm, and now she stood there, trembling, her voice barely audible over the thunder as she extended the diary toward him, her small hands shaking with the weight of unspoken grief. The girl, whose name he would later learn was Lily, had no one else to turn to. Her mother, a single parent battling a terminal illness, had passed away just weeks before, leaving behind a modest apartment on the city's outskirts and this diary as her final testament, a collection of handwritten entries that chronicled a life of quiet struggles and unyielding love. Lily's father had long since disappeared, and with no relatives to claim her, she faced the cold machinery of foster care, but in her mother's last moments, she had pressed the diary into her daughter's hands, urging her to find someone important to read it, someone who could understand its message. Why she chose Alexander's towering skyscraper, of all places, remained a mystery. Perhaps it was the building's imposing presence that symbolized power to a child, or maybe fate had guided her tiny footsteps through the rain-swept streets. Alexander, irritated at first by the intrusion, nearly summoned security to escort her out, but as she uttered those words, "Can you read this for me? It's important," her eyes brimming with tears that mirrored the storm outside, a flicker of curiosity, or perhaps a buried memory of his own lost childhood, stayed his hand. He took the diary, its pages worn and stained, and began to read, unaware that each word would unravel the threads of his isolated existence. As the night deepened, Alexander delved into the diary's entries, the girl's mother, named Elena, pouring out her soul in ink that faded in places, her handwriting growing unsteady as her illness progressed. She wrote of her dreams deferred, how she had once aspired to be an artist but sacrificed it all for a stable job at a factory owned by none other than Hart Enterprises, where long hours and meager pay ground her spirit into dust. Yet, amid the hardships, her words brimmed with love for Lily, describing the joy of watching her daughter chase fireflies in the park, the simple pleasure of bedtime stories that transported them to worlds far from their cramped reality. Elena detailed the diagnosis that came like a thief in the night, the cancer that spread relentlessly, stealing her strength and forcing her to confront a future where she couldn't protect her child. The entries grew more poignant, revealing her fears of leaving Lily alone in a world that valued profit over people, her pleas to an unseen reader to remember that true wealth lay in connections, in acts of kindness that rippled outward like stones in a pond. Alexander felt a tightness in his chest as he read of Elena's final days, how she had been laid off from his company during a cost-cutting spree he himself had orchestrated, her benefits stripped away just as she needed them most, leaving her to face medical bills that devoured her savings and hastened her decline. The suspense built within him like the storm outside, each page turning revealing layers of Alina's resilience, her quiet acts of defiance against a system that discarded the vulnerable, secretly helping co-workers unionize, sharing her lunches with those even needier, all while hiding her own pain to shield Lily from worry. Alexander's mind raced back to his own decisions, the board meetings where he had approved those layoffs without a second thought, viewing employees as numbers on a ledger rather than lives intertwined with hopes and heartaches. The diary wove in moments of raw emotion, Elena describing the night she held Lily close during a power outage caused by unpaid bills, whispering promises of better days even as doubt gnawed at her. He paused at entries where she questioned the CEOs of the world, wondering if they ever considered the human cost of their empires, if they lay awake at night haunted by the families they shattered. For Alexander, these words struck like lightning, illuminating the void in his life, the estranged siblings he hadn't spoken to in years, the relationships sacrificed on the altar of success, the gnawing emptiness that no amount of wealth could fill. Lily sat quietly across from him, her eyes fixed on the floor, unaware of the internal tempest raging in the man before her, as he struggled against the rising tide of guilt and empathy that threatened to drown his defenses. Hours slipped by in the hushed office, the rain now a gentle patter against the windows, as Alexander reached the diary's climax, Alina's final entry, scrawled in a hand weakened by pain, a letter addressed to whoever might read it, imploring them to change, to use their power not for domination but for upliftment, to see in Lily's face the innocence worth protecting. She revealed a secret. Years ago, as a young intern at Heart Enterprises, she had crossed paths with a driven young Alexander, offering him a kind word during a moment of doubt, a gesture he had forgotten but one that had subtly fueled his rise. This revelation hit him like a physical blow, connecting their lives in ways he never imagined, forcing him to confront how his actions had come full circle, destroying the very person who had once shown him mercy. Tears, unbidden and foreign after decades of suppression, blurred his vision as he closed the book, looking at Lily with new eyes, seeing not an intruder, but a mirror of his own abandoned youth, a chance for redemption he hadn't known he craved. From that night forward, things began to change, slowly at first, like the dawn creeping over the horizon after a long darkness. Alexander didn't call security. Instead, he wrapped Lily in his coat and drove her home through the subsiding storm, listening as she shared fragments of her life, her voice a fragile thread weaving into his hardened heart. In the days that followed, he delved into Alina's story, uncovering the injustices at his own company, the overlooked medical claims, the impersonal terminations, and for the first time, he felt the weight of responsibility not as a burden, but as a call to action. He reinstated benefits for laid-off workers, established a foundation in Alina's name to support single parents facing illness, and began mentoring programs that prioritized empathy and leadership. Lily became a part of his world, not through formal adoption at first, but through visits that grew into a bond, her laughter filling the voids in his penthouse, teaching him the art of presence over possession. Challenges persisted, board members resisted his shifts, old habits clawed at him during stressful mergers, but each struggle only deepened his resolve, transforming his empire from a machine of extraction into a force for good, where profit served people rather than the reverse. As the years unfolded, Alexander's transformation rippled outward, inspiring those around him to question their own paths, to seek second chances in a world quick to judge and discard. Lily grew into a young woman under his guidance, her mother's diary a cherished relic that reminded them both of the fragility of life and the enduring power of love. In quiet moments, Alexander would reflect on that stormy night, grateful for the little girl who had stormed his fortress, her simple request altering the course of his existence, proving that even the mightiest hearts could be softened by the whisper of humanity. If this story has touched your heart, reminding you of the profound impact one act of kindness can have, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what line from this tale resonated with you most, and share it to spread the message of hope and change. Before we end, a special request: comment your favorite line from the story below, it could inspire our next tale.